PrettyShepherd, and today I am here to tell you how I've actually managed to thrift flip a deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume. But first, some housekeeping. And if it just so happens that you are uninterested in live content or channel updates, then here are some timestamps for you. Enjoy! But if you're still watching, hi, hello, it's so good to have you here. First of all, let me tell you, I'm fine. I am overall healthy and doing well, even though there are some terrible, horrible things going on in the world right now. And obviously, I'm thinking of the Ukrainian war. It's horrific and it's taking a big toll on me. It's difficult for me to talk or even think about it, but the farm where I live is safe and secluded and hopefully far enough from it all. I hope. Moving on. Number 2 on the housekeeping list is the fact that you may have noticed I've disappeared, not only from YouTube but also from Instagram. I have to confess, I've been struggling with my creative process and also some executive dysfunction for a while now. But I think I'm getting over it. At least I think. I mean, I'm making this video, so that's a good sign. My struggles are also linked to the fact that I've gone through a major shift in personal style. Truth be told, I have not radically changed the way that I dress for the past 10 years at least. So as unusual and as strange as it is to me, I've actually been very brave. And I've started experimenting with mixing Gen Z elements into my own style. As you can see from my drip eyeliner. I low-key blame TikTok. And speaking of which, I've actually started making TikToks. Who would have thunk? So if you're interested, then you can find me there as PrettyShepherd, as always. Now, the reason why I'm dipping my toes into short-form content is that the creative process is somehow easier on me. Go figure. I don't fuss quite as much before posting a video there, whereas on YouTube I worry and I question myself over and over and over again.
Is it good enough? Is it funny enough? But is it educational enough?
Dozens and dozens of times, to the point where I just leave it. But anyway, I'm still learning the ropes on Gen Z TikTok as well as Gen Z style. And sometimes I feel very silly for having shifted gears into a younger version. I mean, I'm in my 30s. I have never ever worn crop tops, not even as a teen. And I started to wear them now, of all times? Yeah, I don't really understand me either. But if any one of you has ever gone through a totally unexplainable shift in what you wore or what you liked, could you please drop me a reassuring line in the comments? Because I would very much like to know that I'm not the only one. I really hope I'm not. I do want to let everyone know though that this does not mean that I'm waving goodbye to my vintage folklore style, because I'm not. It's still a huge part of who I am and basically the core of my style. Case in point, the topic of today's video, my deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume.
But Anna, what is a deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume?
Well, I'm very glad you asked. Take it away, Shouty.
Hi, I'm a ShoutyShepherd, and today I am here to tell you about the deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume. Has this ever happened to you?
Oh man, I really wish I had a folk costume, but they're so expensive and so hard to come by.
Haha, say less, fam, cause with
I have a very particular preference for shapes and sizes and colors, and the pieces that I run into are not to my liking, and I end up yearning for them but not buying them because they wouldn't really outwardly express my personality the way that I would like them to.
No, seriously, say
And
less.
I also like the fabrics that women used to weave in a particular area, but they don't anymore because it's not one of the trendy folkloric areas
areas with the costumes churned out by the poorly made dozen to flood the market for tourists and laymen, and well, you're in luck, because with today's deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume kit, you too can live your folkloric dreams in a modern land. The deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume kit now includes, but is not limited to, a thrifted pencil skirt to make your vest out of. This sexy vest. A thrifted 80s skirt to make your skirt out of. And so much more. The deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume can be worn both separately or as a set. You can also choose to go all in with a peasant blouse, folk bootsies, an apron, and bougie accessories. Bougie. Too dark for you? Then you can go for the youthful light color scheme.
Wow, silk apron? So bougie.
Or you can tone it down for everyday wear. Hashtag folklore, am I right? The deceivingly accurate looking Transylvanian folk costume is a great conversation starter, and it can easily become a staple of your wardrobe. Don't believe me? I can't blame you. I'm basically the definition of a shady salesman. But take the word of this satisfied costumer instead.
I mean, yeah, I do wear these pieces in my everyday life, just to run errands, but also for more formal or folkloric events as well. Yeah, but they already know that.
Wonderful! Order now, and we will also include a VHS tape with a tutorial on how to braid your hair the everyday farm-go way. And remember, with the deceivingly accurate-looking Transylvanian folk costume, you too can trick people into thinking you're wearing an heirloom set passed down through generations.
Disclaimer, please don't actually try to trick people into thinking you're wearing authentic or historical pieces when you're not. Folk costumes are for everyone, but both PrettyShepherd and ShoutyShepherd advise you to educate yourself on the folklore of a particular area before you tap into it.
Yeah.
Other than that, just have fun.
Order now!
That was an amazing InFolkmercial. Thank you, Shouty.
The pleasure is all mine.
I bet. So, I made a skirt to match my Transylvanian folk costume vest, which I already have a YouTube playlist on. If you haven't seen it, then you can check it out over here. But if you are a longtime viewer of this channel, then you will know that I actually made my vest out of a thrifted pencil skirt, which had a pattern of cloudy stripes, very much like the homespun fabrics woven in the area of Háromszék. Now, back when I started working on it, I made this here drawing, which also depicts a skirt, which kind of implies that I had originally planned to have a skirt to go with it. So in the back of my mind, I figured I would one day ask a friend who still does traditional weaving to make me a skirt's worth of fabric, naturally featuring the colors of the vest. I mean, a custom woven batch would basically be the only way to match this absolutely random thrift store find, right? Well, up until a few weeks ago, I would have agreed, all facts, no printer. But then, through the eternal power of thrift manifestation, behold, I literally couldn't believe my eyes when I stumbled into this skirt. I mean, the colors are perfect. The cloudy weave is quite perfect, and the length is also pretty perfect. It's perfect! Now, one thing that I really need to highlight here is the width of the stripes, which is also basically just perfect. Because back when women would make their own homespun and home-woven fabrics, they would often make different batches for vests and for skirts, even if they wanted to use the very same colors in very similar proportions. Simply because in the case of vests, there is so much less real estate to show off patterns, and thus a narrower striped fabric will have a lot more visual interest. But when it comes to skirts, there's so much more fabric that goes into them, and making wider stripes actually makes quicker progress when weaving. Weave smart, not hard. So yeah, now you probably understand my excitement for this amazing thrift store find. It's just so perfect. I really couldn't have planned it any better either. But as perfect as the fabric is, the skirt is still just a vintage 80s skirt without the right kind of adjustments and trims. And remember, we still need to make it bougie AF. AF meaning and folkloric. Bougie and folkloric. That's what I meant. Bougie and folkloric. Turning to my drawing as a reference, I can already tell you that it is impossible to make this out of this much fabric. Originally, I wanted to add these bias cut stripes, which is somewhat of a city fashion trend in folkloric clothing, as more archaic pieces use only rectangles as pattern pieces, and cutting anything on the bias would be very wasteful in peasant mentality.
Puff sleeves are divine.
Waste of fabric.
Well, that's a bummer, but I can still turn to my favorite book from this area, Sekai people in their Sunday best, just to try and find some alternative inspo from Háromszék. And while I'm flipping through it, I can actually tell you about the two main ways that skirts from this area are constructed. The more archaic version is the tiered skirt, like this one, or these. The reason behind the two tiers is simply the fact that traditionally woven stuff could only be striped in the short way, so along the weft of the fabric. And given the modest size of looms used in villages, fabric could never reach the traditionally right length in just one width. So instead, there would be a piece gathered, or more rarely, pleated at the waist, and then another one joined into it somewhere under the hip level. But then we also have these skirts, which are definitely made from one single width of fabric. How is that possible? Well, firstly, skirt lengths started to get shorter and shorter and shorter, especially in the second half of the 20th century. There are even some photos from the 1980s of women wearing basically the equivalent of a folkloric miniskirt, which at the time, I guess they thought was traditional passing. I'm not here to mock them. I mean, at the time, historical accuracy was just simply not a priority, and they just probably wanted to look young and hip. Who am I to blame them? Anyway, there is a second reason to the development of the single tiered skirts as well. One that I find truly fascinating, as I was able to observe it on an extant garment myself. Factory-made fabrics. That's right. In the mid-20th century, folk costumes were still worn very, very commonly in most villages of this area. And then factory magnates decided to join the chat. Some mills began weaving striped fabric, imitating the traditional patterns of the region. Cloudy stripes were even more prevalent in this factory-made stuff. And the industrial looms could get the stripes to run lengthwise on the fabric. This way, the village women could decide to cut it to whatever length they desired. The innovation probably took off a little something like this. Ugh. Is that stupid factory magnate again? Who, Mishka? As if we're on first name basis. So what does he want this time? Huh. This is actually intriguing. You remember how I told you how I really hate setting up the loom that takes up a whole room in our single room peasant house? Yeah. It looks like Mishka might be onto something. Oh my god, I love these new cloudy colors! Same! Wanna get matching sets? Bet. Now this is a turn that actually makes me feel a lot less guilty that I'm about to fake my own folk costume, as I'm just about to do. Yes, this is a two-parter, but only because this video is turning out to be very, very long, and the next one will be no different. And you can take this as a promise. I will be back and I will show you how I've turned my insanely lucky thrift store find into a deceivingly authentic looking Transylvanian folk costume. Including fitting, adjustments, realizing that being part of the historical costuming community has totally shifted my perspective into what is good enough for a folk costume. And also, bougie black velvet galore. So stay tuned and subscribe for more folksy content. Bye bye! Hey, disco lights, disco lights, disco lights, disco lights. Woo! Disco lights. And also the sun that got out from behind the cloud. I can't record until it goes bad.